Hey Jeepers, welcome to another episode of On the Trail with Kevin and Scott. I'm Scott, the slapstick parts guy, and a continual mission to not try and laugh out loud and derail my own train of thought.
Well, that's different for this time, and I'm Kevin, the engineer, the guy who reads the instructions, follows them, and uses the appropriate tools.
And as we always share to the beginning of our show that I've always just blanked out and
What
forgot.
he's trying to say, folks, is while we will share what worked for us as well as what didn't, and we have a few of those,
Yes.
It's always up to you to do your own research, make your own decisions, read the instructions,
And follow them, please.
please. And we have a lot to talk about following instructions from SEMA.
SEMA,
Where
yeah.
we talk to the manufacturers who, some of them have actually heard our podcast and go, thank you for asking them to follow the instructions.
Yes, that was said more common than not. So if we sound a little off, just a heads up, guys. This is going to be guys and gals. This is going to be a long show.
We'll try and keep it short, but there's just so much to cover. And if it gets too long, we'll just do two.
Yeah, we'll make it a part two. But on a quick little serious note, though, I do want to take a few minutes out to Troy Martin, one of the good friends of the show. Him and Kurt, again, great, outstanding guys. Unfortunately, probably by the time this comes out, King Louie, his great Pekingese, beautiful dog, very friendly, crossed over the Rainbow Bridge, if not already, very soon. So we take a moment of silence out for him. Thank you very much for sharing that, Troy. We feel your pain, but
We've all lost companions like that a time or two. So we do understand, and thoughts and prayers with you.
Exactly. So on another note, a little, I guess, as somber, but not as somber, Crawling for the Fallen went through without, I guess it was a pretty good success.
Yeah.
A very good success, actually.
Very good success. And shout out, I got to do this to Bonnie.
Yes.
Bonnie is a good friend of the show. She's been on the show before. She is the powerhouse behind Specialty Powder Coating, along with her husband, who is the master mechanic and owner of Specialty Motorsports.
Yes.
The builders of several Jeeps, God's Jeep, and Giau.
Yes.
And surprise, surprise.
Yeah, just won Best of Show.
Bonnie won Best of Show at Crawling for the Fallen.
Yeah.
So congrats, Bonnie, on that one.
And what's also really interesting is before I left for SEMA, Chrissy Johnson reached out to me and she says, hey, I got an idea. We got a repeater. And would you mind reading the names of the fallen officers, and we'll set it to music? And I absolutely, I was honored she chose. Unfortunately, she knew you were already in Texas, but I was honored to go ahead and do that. And I read all the names, and it was moving.
It's moving, but they also had to listen to your voice over and over and over.
Well, again,
so she said it was a quiet show. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it was a somber moment. And,
it is somber. It's a somber issue.
Yeah, Becky, one of Chrissy's good friends, helped her and run the project. She said that she had survivors with her, and my intro and opening that we did was perfect, and the music was perfect, and they all did a great job on that night ride. So Chrissy, we're glad to hear it was a success. And again, hopefully next year.
Any help we can do next year, please just let us know.
Absolutely. So on to that. So I don't know, Kevin, anything else new happened with you recently?
I'm still exhausted. Let's see. Was the walking 6 to 8 miles a day anything to do with it, Scott? The roar and tire smoke billowing in front, so you couldn't even see, a certain town that some of us are referring to as lost wages. Let's see what else happened. Actually before that, I was stopped in Texas and visited a very good friend of ours, and went to see him and
Yosemite Sam?
Huh?
Yosemite Sam?
No, and you got to be careful. My friend John,
I already know.
He epitomizes Texas.
Oh yes,
he doesn't go anywhere unarmed if he can help it. But no, it was great visiting with him, seeing some of the projects that I've worked with him in the past on, such as his
amateur astrology.
His
astronomy. Why do I keep saying astronomy?
Well, that's okay. I'm the one having the mental block out right now. But yeah, he is a home astronomer.
That's the word.
And but we also went to their church, which was a lot of fun. Even though for their I think it was called Night of Lights, which is their Halloween festivities,
Right.
And they had a record crowd
And a record cold.
It was down in the 30s, Ooh. And Susan was nice enough, my side of the financial department, to sit out and be the greeting booth and bringing people in and handing out packages and taking names and wristbands. And I got asked, and it's a good cause. So I spent the night standing out on a dark Texas highway, directing traffic with a police officer directing traffic, because we tied up some small town. I won't go into it, in Texas. The traffic was pretty interesting, and we managed to get absolutely no accidents. Uh-huh. Nobody got run over crossing the highway to go from parking lot to festival
that's a good
and
thing.
back. And nobody was screaming bloody oaths at us because they had to wait in line too long. So I rate that as a success. Now, of course, I was down to the point where I was starting to chatter because all I had was exactly.
You're a Florida boy, aren't you?
I is a Florida boy now. I didn't used to be, but I've been here long enough that pretty much my cold tolerance is gone.
You can tell the people from Florida in the airport when they're in socks or flip-flops and shorts and a tank top. And you're like, you realize here in Nevada, it's like 38 right now?
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun to wander around in the hill country of Texas again. Yeah. And then jump on the airplane and come down to Lost Wages and meet up with Scott and Dory, his side of the financial department, who you guys had some fun before we got there.
And it's so funny when you said on a dark Texas highway. So we got there early. We got there at Saturday evening, morning-ish, whatever. I don't know, one of the 2 days. It's all a blur. And so we got there, and Dory, she really wanted to do a dune buggy adventure, and so we had scheduled a thing for. I gotta give them a shout out, Sun Buggies. Okay, and it was a lot of fun. On Sunday we went, and I have to byline here, and we'll get. I know you're all like, shut up, get to SEMA, but we got to talk about the whole experience because it's so funny. I got to witness what everyone else gets to in Jeep Beach, and let me finish. Let me say it by this. I got to go to another town, experience everything, go broke, and do some really cool local things. Yep, that is cool. And the reason why I had to byline, because it was completely new to you, because they had what's called public land. Yeah. And they take you out in these buggies. They get you all suited up. They get you taken care of. Strapped in, tied down. Yeah, and it was funny because he's like Dion, our guide. He goes, "Hey, what are you guys here for?" I'm like, "Well, we want to have some fun." He goes, "Come on, everybody wants to have fun." And I'm like, "Well, we're off roaders, And then Dory, she drives Jeep. We're slow and slow. We're Jeepers." And he goes, "Oh, okay. Our rescue vehicle's a Jeep." I'm like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, I noticed a TJ in the back." He goes, "Yeah, it's broke." Well, hey, a TJ in its natural habit, the brakes went out. So I'm like, well, that's about right. Par for the course. Yep. So he's like, so you guys go slow. And I go, yeah. He goes, all right, well, stay on my behind. And I said, well, that's fine. Dory's driving. She has no problem with that. Yep. So we go out there, and of course, we stay right on his behind. And he starts picking up a little more speed. He starts picking up more speed. And going, okay, let's just push these Flatlanders and see how they can handle. And, we got done, and he got out, and he goes, hey, you know what? He's like, I've never had someone stay on me like that. He goes, congratulations, you guys give Jeepers a good name. But what was really interesting is that we started talking about how it was public land, and we saw trash everywhere. That's sad, and it's very sad because one of the things they had said is, hey, they're thinking about shutting this down. And I went back to Florida about how we're losing spots daily, and I'm like, guys, I don't care where you are. It's a problem. You are losing public land because of you're not respecting the land. It's not just you; it's other people. Correct. And it doesn't matter who put the water bottle, the beer bottle. Pick it up. Pick it up. That's all that we ask. Take a trail trash bag. I've seen plenty of them, homemade and purchased, that'll hang on your spare tire, your bunny tail. Yeah. And if you see it. And granted, if you're flying down a dirt road, or, a wash or something like that, you can't stop. I get that. Yeah. But, you usually see it when you slow down or you stop somewhere. Yeah. And stewardship is noted. And I will tell you, in our state, if they see people packing out and they're bringing trash out and putting it in the trash receptacles, you might even have one of the help me out, the Florida Fish and Wildlife people come up to you and thank you. Yeah.
because they can't do it all, and they're not garbage men either. So, but if everybody pitched in a little bit, if everybody picked up one can,
just one measly can or water bottle or beer bottle,
you would make a huge difference.
And for those of you worrying about an open container, that's why you have the trasheroo, the bunny sack in the back. You know, hey, I picked this up, and they'll tell. They can see if it's covered in dust and dirt and ants and
they're
whatever.
Not going to shoot you, particularly if you come in and say, "Hey, look out!" You know, they're going to go, "What's in there?" And it's like, "Well, we picked up some trail trash while we were driving."
Yeah. Well, when we left was the funny part. When we talked about dark Texas highway, it was sunset. We got on the highway. We started leaving, and it popped in my head on a dark desert highway. And I made a comment in the van with a bunch of other people from all over the country, and they all started laughing. And the driver goes, "Happens all the time." I'm like, oh, gee. So,
except that you were in a Nevada highway.
Yeah.
And dark. I was on the true Texas highway.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's desert.
I got you. Yeah, it was interesting. So, what else did you do that was not Jeep related? I'm curious.
Slept.
But I know you did something else. So I'm trying to tease it out of you.
Basically, we did the high roller, which was kind of fun, and Dory and I.
For those of you who don't know what the high roller is, it is Las Vegas's version of the London Eye
or the Orlando Eye,
but the London Eye was first, and it is a enormous wheel. Really looks like a bicycle wheel.
Yeah,
stood on edge on a frame. And slowly rotates.
Yes.
And you have capsules around the perimeter that are clock-driven counter rotation to the wheel rotation, so it always stays level and flat.
Yeah. Remember, kids, math.
It works. Sorry. Dory wanted to go up there, and I noticed that we rode with them, which is why I know this, and there was some trepidation of the two passengers who hadn't ridden in a vehicle like that. I've been lucky. We've ridden in the London Eye, and we've done a few other excursions, and so, I kind of knew what was coming, but, when you're on the perimeter of a rim, you have that safe feeling when you're down and you load because it's hanging, and everybody can handle hanging under the supports. But as you start going up, and all of a sudden,
that 2 minutes to midnight,
and you're all of a sudden on top of the wheel, and you can't see anything holding your little sphere up, but you can see the entire strip, the mountains in the distance. You're looking down on an aircraft coming into McCarran Airport, and I saw a certain subtle shift into starting to hold on to things. And of course, I can't resist poking the bear. So I'm like, you realize if this comes off, holding on to it's just not gonna make a difference.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kevin. Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, and that's one of the really cool things. I gotta stop saying that. I like your statement. If that's the wheel, I'd hate to see the bicycle.
Yep.
Yuck. We also did some zip lining while we were there. Dory did Superman style on her belly zip lining, and when she got off, she's like, never again.
It was fun because we're standing down below, and they're like, well, I'll try and video you. It's kind of tough. It's dark.
Yeah. And you don't know who's coming.
You don't know who's coming, and then all of a sudden I hear this.
And the audience is deaf.
Correct. But, it was just one of those grow and scream. And my wife looked at me and she goes, yeah, that was probably Dory.
And what's more throws you off is that she had like LED lights glowing on
anybody
the skid.
that did Superman had the LED lights that I think they were supposed to be the S of Superman.
Or excuse me, copyrighted superhero.
Well, okay. But I did have to laugh because I could tell you were sitting in a basket with your legs dangling down.
Oh, yeah.
In your Florida shorts.
Well, it's kind of like when they all say, do you have any back injuries, sir? No. Moving on from that.
So, let's get on with the reason we went.
Yeah, the reason we went.
Specialty Equipment Manufacturers Association.
Yes.
The big show that they put on every year in the fall to show you all the new products that members and even non-member companies are getting ready to release or have recently released.
Yes.
And I will tell you, nothing we can describe is going to really put it in perspective. You have to somehow go to appreciate this, even if you can't get in, and it is an industry trade-only show.
Correct.
There is outside that is open to the general public. All the outside venues are open. Only through the glass doors is restricted.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. And then, of course, at the end of it all is SEMA Ignited.
Yeah.
And SEMA Ignited is when all of the show cars are coming out as they break it down, and demo vehicles, they come out and they have to parade through. Now, some stay, and then there's some other things going on, but it's your last chance to see all the custom vehicles.
Yeah.
And I'm going to byline right now.
Okay.
If you're listening to this podcast and you haven't checked out our YouTube page, our presentations from the media pre-tours for Monday, Tuesday SEMA opening, Wednesday, and Thursday are all up on YouTube. And they are public. They are normally, we kind of hold the videos back for our Patreons.
Right.
But this was so big that we felt we would share them with everybody.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to the podcast and you want to see what SEMA looked like, I bet only a small fraction, go watch the videos. And you can watch me do a miserable job of trying to weld aluminum for the very first time. And we'll get to that later.
Well, and that's the reason why we did it, because everyone's like, hey, you get to post, podcasts. Getting up and walking that entire show and then coming back, we were exhausted. And it's like, okay, either we record an audio segment or we do an editing on the video. We sat down for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours sometimes. Kevin did especially.
Every night we produced a show.
Yes.
And we decided it was better to do what we're calling a video podcast.
Right.
Because actually the videos...
To adjust it.
The audio gear is the same gear we're recording on right now. We came up with our own little custom rig, and Scott's posted pictures
the
of the
GoZoom H9.
GoZoom H9 with optional wireless lavalier system.
Yes. So the audio quality, you guys know how I am about audio quality. I got to have audio quality. Kevin and I, we obsessed over it.
Yeah.
We made sure the audio quality is just as good, because we've all seen the audios of film with iPhones. It works.
Yeah.
But you guys know me. Unfortunately, it doesn't do it justice. It's so much better seeing it in video. And if you want to check it out, please check it out.
Yeah.
By all means.
It's there for everyone to see.
Yeah.
So basically, the only day we did not do a video podcast for was Friday because Scott was on an airplane home. Yep. But I went ahead with Susan and we walked the floors for other things and for some content. And what those that are watching this video of this podcast, our Patreons are seeing my table covered with papers,
maps,
magazines,
Jimmy Hoffa's wristwatch.
And I'm going to hold up for the Patreon viewers a can full, absolutely full to overfilling of thumb drives.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the manufacturers were like, well, you don't want to carry any paper anyway. So here, just take a thumb drive and a lanyard and another thumb drive and a lanyard. And here's another thumb drive and a lanyard.
And by the way, if you haven't gotten it yet, here's another thumb drive and a lanyard. Oh, we have enough lanyards right now to circle the earth. Yeah.
Our Patreons can see this is just the thin down to one of each varietal.
Yeah, it's literally the size of a softball. And when we did ours, they're kind of draped over a chair, and I think I broke the chair.
So, but you know what? We do have to make a shout out because some interesting things before we get to the Jeep parts and Jeep people and processes and tools.
Yes.
We got a couple of shout outs because we ran into fellow podcasters.
Yeah, podcast alumni. One of them was Cody from Trail Chasers.
Okay.
We took a few minutes and talked with him a little bit. And, you guys know how I stress about Australia.
Yes.
And even though not really a podcaster, but I think it's very, very fitting, yes.
That we ran into Ben Davidson. Hi, Ben. Hopefully you get a chance to listen to this. And he was very interested in our Jeep podcast in America because Ben is the editor-in-chief of Jeep Action Magazine. Mm-hmm. Kind of a neat magazine. Very well-made magazine. Almost a catalog.
The production quality is very, very nice. Paper stock, glossy, the whole 9 yards.
Great materials. Even articles on TJs and old rework and older Jeeps. I was reading this going, okay, I'm ready to move to Australia. It was absolutely fantastic. And so I got to say that, Ben, you produce a fantastic magazine. I wish it was, distributed here in America. Yes, I know you will mail it for a small fee to the States, but
hey, you know what though? It's nominal. The production quality in that magazine, all the information in it's really good. It's universal.
Well, what's really neat was when I was reading through the articles is to see the Australian viewpoint.
Yeah.
Okay. And while there were some differences, they're Jeep heads, just like we are.
Oh, yeah.
So
absolutely.
that was fantastic. We've talked about our sister shows, and of course, the heart and soul of the sister show, the guy that keeps it all together.
Yeah, Tony McElroy. Yeah, for the 4x4 Radio Network.
And we walk into the media center, and all of a sudden, we hear our names being shouted. Hey, Scott! Hey, it's like, what? Who knows us?
This is surreal.
And it was Tony.
Yeah, he took a few minutes out to do a quick video interview up on the website, the YouTube channel for it.
Yep. So I'm just going to do a quick rundown. Keep It Simple Off-Road. That was kind of neat. Met with them. Kelly Nomura, brand manager for Tread Magazine.
Yep.
Jan Wagner, a syndicated weekly lifestyle columnist and auto guy, was there and talked to us a little bit.
He was a really cool guy.
www.drivetribe.com and search for Auto Matters and More Tribe. He was really neat. And while he wasn't directly into Jeeps, he was definitely a gearhead.
Oh, yeah.
And willing to talk issues. We met Jimmy Jett of Snail Trails 4x4. And then we met, I got to get their names, Jason and Chris of this was a weird one, Wheeling Wine and Whiskey.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to let them go first.
Exactly.
Podcast. So I guess they talk about wheeling, wine, and whiskey.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard one of their episodes, checking them out. It's not bad. I mean, they talk about a whole bunch of different kind of stuff. Again, sometimes, it's nice to cover a different subject. We did the trail chow, stuff like that. Kind of like, mix it up a little bit.
And then, let's face it, I had the most fun with one specific automotive journalist, including probably, unfortunately, giving a little heart start when I reached up behind him and tapped him on the shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
If you guys ever watched Trucks TV, okay, on the old Velocity channel, and before that it was I don't remember the different, they all went through, and that was Kevin Tates.
He was super cool.
He's the guy on trucks. He was the painting specialist, but he was very good with a wrench. Found out that his shop is only a little ways down from Ian Johnson. Yep. And Ian, as you may remember from the same group of shows, the original Extreme 4x4. And he was the host, and this young lady got a start with him. Yeah. The late, sorry, caught me right there, Jesse Combs. Yes. Who passed away. But if you go back and look at some of the Motor Trend Network old shows, you will see a very young Jesse Combs just out of welding school. Yeah. On Extreme 4x4 with Ian Johnson in the time. And yes, we did get to meet Ian Johnson, but I'll get more about that later, because that was a little more of a related to some other parts of the show. Yeah. So those are all the basic shout outs for other media who we ran into. And I'm sorry, what's going on right now? Scott's here looking at the time going, how are we doing?
No. I'm just checking the levels. And I'm sorry, guys, if it sounds a little weird than normal. I forgot my headset, so I'm wearing Kevin's headset.
So where do you want to start? I'm looking at this field of cards. I'm looking at the maps. Some of our Patreons may be able to see it. Let me try and put this into perspective. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buildings. I'm going to count the 7th as that tent, outdoor.
The Overland Experience.
The Overland Experience. The Overland Experience was relatively small in comparison, but it in itself was very large. But these other floors held 200 to 300 vendors per floor. Yeah. Okay, I counted the South Hall Upper, which was the heart and soul of the off-road, where we spent all of Monday morning. As we said, 6 to 8 miles a day trying to go through the coverage on this. this is an experience. This is, it must be like somebody out in the hinterlands when the Barnum and Bailey circus rolled in and they'd never seen anything other than cows and horses and pigs.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it just kept, the train just keeps rolling in and rolling in and rolling in and rolling in. We just kind of like, oh my goodness. And the fact is they really do bring the experts and the builders in. Mm-hmm. So just as a quickie, we were in the Mopar booth. It took us 2 days to get to the Mopar booth, which isn't really a booth. It's a whole section of the hall.
Right. There's a 360 view of the tour of the Mopar booth on our Facebook page.
Yep. And so we were standing next to a very unique JT. Mm-hmm. And you'll see it on the videos, and you can listen to it on the video, on the audio side of that. And I'm talking to a guy, and he's in the Mopar booth, but he's wearing a Dynatrack shirt. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Dyna or Dynatrack?
Huh?
It's a Dana shirt, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. It was Dana. I'm looking at the wrong card.
It's okay, but there's like 900
here. It is important. And lo and behold, the gentleman kind of said, well, we were asking about axles at that point. Mm-hmm. And he looked over and he says, well, I'm the builder of this Jeep. And I'm like, really? As in the builder? He says, yeah, as in the guy who paid the bills, did most of the work, selected the components. And this JT was sectioned into a cab and a half. Mm-hmm. All right. And then had a modular flatbed assembly on it. P-Core, I think, was a manufacturer. So if you take everything off, it's just a flatbed.
Right.
But then you can lock in. He had an overlanding capsule slid on and locked down that had a generator in it and water. And
you were right. It was Dynatrack.
It was Dynatrack.
Dynatrack. Yeah, because I'm thinking this wasn't the Mopar booth. This was the Dynatrack booth.
No, this was the corner. This was the... Now you got me confused. We'll have to go back and look at our own video. Yeah. But that was Anthony, right?
Yeah, that was the tan one up, the cab in half with the... that was the Dynatrack booth.
Okay, but Dynatrack. Yeah, okay. Yeah. But Anthony Carvalho, I hope I'm not mutilating your name too well, was a performance axle specialist, but also built the Jeep.
Yeah.
So there's a guy who works for a supplier, but is also a Jeeper. So what do you think that carries through in the designs when they're building their axles?
Oh, yeah.
He knows what's going on.
Oh, yeah. It was a Hemi-powered, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, yeah.
No, sorry, a Hellcat powered.
Hellcat powered.
Yeah.
With Dana 60 axles under both ends. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was an awesome build, and I can't describe it. You're going to have to look at the video.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And again, the cool thing was, again, like you said, he was an engineer too.
Yeah.
Yeah. He talked about the Ackerman angles.
Yeah. We were talking about the fact that they now, when you have, actually they did then, but, everybody thinks about caster, camber, and toe.
Right.
On a straight axle. But you can work in some Ackerman and some other things. These Ackerman angles have to do with your steering quality. And his comment was, well, they actually now, Dynatrack will machine the knuckle to your specification. So if you want to have a little more Ackerman into it, they will drill the hole that the axle knuckle goes on the tube before it's welded. So it has not just tilt, which would be caster.
Right.
But everybody thinks, oh, it's a straight thing. It slips on. No, if you drill that at an angle, you can actually change the apparent Ackerman angle. I'll put it that way, because Ackerman really plays into independent front suspension more than fixed axles. But what that means is that your caster will change as your steering angle changes, which you can then dial it in for wheelbase length, because that's where Ackerman comes in.
Right.
And he had that axle machined for the new wheelbase that he built his rig to, and he says it handles like a sports car.
Yeah. And he said the safety is a key when you're slinging around that much Jeep with that much power.
And so he wanted something he felt he could control.
Yeah. What was again the whole experience, and he's one of the first ones that said, hey, don't be afraid. Call us.
Call us.
If you have questions about our product, we want you to be happy.
Yeah, and they want to work with you. What else do we got to cover?
Oh, man.
We did get some of your questions, and on the videos we answered them, but, we talked to Chris Meehan at iDrive.
Yes.
He talked a lot about iDrive and educated us about what iDrive can do for the Jeep. He also kind of told me some ideas what it can do for my Jeep Puller, my F-250 little rocket ship.
And that's to be honest with you, I was one of those people when I looked at these iDrive pedal plug-in power things. I'm like, who cares? You know, again, I was that way.
Yeah.
But learning things where he gets again, we talked about how Dory's Jeep is re-geared to 513, or sorry. 513, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
That's what you did. 513
plus the lower gear ratio of the 4-to-1 transfer case, about how it lunges and launches.
And he says they can set the iDrive up. You punch a button and you have multiple settings. So you can have your rocket ship. Everybody goes for the rocket ship. Take away that pedal delay. Take away any turbo lag and all that kind of stuff. But you can also put it the other way.
Yeah.
So that when you come into the super low 4-to-1 reduction in your Ruby, it doesn't jump.
Yeah,
it comes up easy, which would make trail manners so much better.
And he goes, the chances of breaking is a lot less.
Right, because you don't snap the axles. So those were things, and of course, I'll be honest, I don't think it's a very small booth. It's a small company. I probably wouldn't have gone down there and given them a second look if it hadn't been for one of our listeners asking questions.
Yeah, he said, hey, I'm thinking about doing it. What do y'all think? Okay, sure. We went right to the question and asked. Which is really nice to do because, again, Kevin and I always talk about how we want to keep the show listener supported. Mm-hmm. That gave us that opportunity.
Didn't have to worry listener supported, but listener driven.
Listener driven. Don't have to worry about any sponsors, making anybody mad. Walk up and say, "Hey, our listener has a question."
Yep. Now, one of the other fun places that we stopped and met Chris Young and Rob Draham, I think.
Draham.
And they're out of Michigan. Worked for a company that I know, but I didn't realize that they also make parts for Jeeps, and that's NAPCO, or NAPCO as they kind of go. It's spelled NEA PCO. And if you need harder, stronger U-joints, they make all series from 13, let's see what they say here, 1310s to 1550s, lubricated for life. They're covered by extended warranties. They're backed by customer service. And I'm sitting here, and again, if you are Patreons will see it. The third page of their catalog is Jeep 2007 to 17 JK long slip high angle components.
Yeah.
Now, these are the guys I know from semi trucks and that kind of stuff, but they have front shafts, rear shafts.
Yeah.
Breakdowns
and colorful
breakdowns
pictures.
and colors. They talk about that their double cardons are high angle components, and they make them for things other than Jeeps. But they, and I was absolutely floored to find out that they even make rock crawler drive shaft assemblies.
Oh yeah,
20-inch slips.
Wow,
20-inch of travel, folks. Think about that. So awesome. The warranty looks good. But, it's just something else that you can look at when you're looking for parts. You're not, necessarily limited in that.
Something in the auto parts store.
So I learned something new, and I guarantee you I'm going to look into them when I need to replace some U-joints.
Well, and that's one of the really cool things we talked about, me and you to the sidebar, is that when we eventually, I guess a little sidebar is when we talked about how like it's especially new parts. Mm-hmm. A lot of brand new companies came up out of the woodworks just to showcase new items, and that's like American Adventure Lab.
Yep.
We met Britt again.
Britt Mansell.
Yeah,
I love his title.
Yeah,
did you see his title?
Oh, I love his title too. He's the Chief Thinker Upper.
Yep, that's on his business cards.
Yeah, and what's really cool is like I actually looked at sequential headlamps because.
Headlamps. So he's talking about
the sequential turn
signals
lamps.
For the
JL and the
JL, JT turn signals on the fenders.
And some company you can't utilize them unless you have already have the LED lighting equipment option.
Right, the mounts aren't there apparently,
or the wiring or something.
He said that, no, there was a two-piece fender on one version and a single. They look the same,
right?
But one is two-piece and one is single. And some manufacturers only do it for the two-piece fender because there's bolt holes.
Okay.
And his lights that he was selling, if you ordered them, if you had the two different fenders, and the one would bolt up to the two-piece fender mounts if you had a two-piecer, but if you have a single piece, his included a bracket to hold the lamp in place. So,
and another cool thing they also had was their the JL tailgate shelf, and again, 1,000 people have those now. You know, they're very
but
popular.
his was just
The cool thing, I even told him he could trademark this, is that it had the typical mole packet, slots on it, but he had an automotive latch that brought it down. And another really cool thing was I called it the 10 millimeter searchlight.
Yep.
Because it had a little LED light that goes across the top. And again, you all know I'm a sucker for lights like that.
You are.
And click, boom, it can illuminate. You had like a small little workbench.
You did. And his was actually, all the rest of them were either steel or steel caged. His was steel and aluminum, but it also had a wood insert into it so that you actually had more of a tabletop. So it was kind of neat.
It's like a chopping block.
It really was. So you could cook on it, or you could work on it. Just make sure you clean in between.
Yeah. This burger tastes like grease.
Yeah, well, that's normal for burgers, but maybe not axle grease.
It tastes like anger and regret.
But, you know, thanks to a listener comment, we met Ben Anderson, tire product manager at Mickey Thompson, and found out that unfortunately they're not going to make the tire he wants in the rim size he wants. The listener wanted 16 and a half, right?
Yeah, 16 and a half, and they just don't.
Pretty much MT said 16 and a half is dying and dying rapidly. Yeah. So, but he was telling us that the tire in question was very, very popular. And was being made in a lot of other rim sizes.
I think it was a Baja Pro X.
Yeah, I think it was too. So
because I kept adding the 4 in there, and he kept looking at me like Baja Pro 4X. I'm like, I don't know. I just
right.
You all know me in names.
Well, and I'm trying to think. I mean, we AFE Power. You know, I guess I got to give a shout out to one guy and a name you'll recognize.
Oh, the name I recognized.
Yeah, even Scott recognized this name. We met Brandon Curry.
Yeah.
You know, guys, you're talking about Curry Correct Link, Curry in the Rock Jock world, Curry, you name it.
You name it.
There's a lot of Curry name on my Jeep, I can tell you that. And to meet Brandon was really pretty neat. It's a big family. And he is family to the original John Curry.
Yep.
And they are going to be taking Rock Jock as its own product line.
Yeah.
Which was kind of a neat concept. So they'll still be related, but it's not going to be nested in the same catalogs.
Oh, and some of their suspension stuff they had?
Oh, yeah. They're working on it, and they are all Jeepers. So they live and breathe what they're building. But it's nice to actually meet them there, you know, and talk to the family.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term.
And that's if you ever get a chance to go out there, that is the coolest thing, because Kevin and I talked about this, about how they're down to earth people, and they took time to answer your questions.
They really did. They really did. A couple other folks. You're going to hear from some of these folks in the not too distant future when we do, because they want to be interviewed directly.
Yes.
And this one will throw you for a loop. It kind of caught Scott. Akzo Nobel.
Yeah.
It's one of the bigger companies you've never heard of, but you definitely have heard of the products they make.
Right.
Okay. So, for example, Seekins, one of the better paint finishes. Trying to remember all of their brands. I can't pull it up, but a lot of the finishes, primers, rust, are all made by Akzo Nobel. And I really have to laugh.
No? Okay. We're trying to think of...
We're looking through the piles of paper trying to remember things. But I'm down at that because I walked over there because in my prior life before I retired, that was one of my clients for the job I used to do. And I went up and went to their Tennessee facility, and the person I ended up to was Sue. And Sue, I apologize, your name, Jaskowski, I think is how you pronounce it, is their marketing and communications specialist. But she's out of Troy, Michigan. And I was talking with her, and it just, okay, you make this, you make that. They're a coatings and finishing company. And they don't just produce automotive, but they produce everything. But she's like, I said, so you guys willing to talk about products to our listeners? And she said, absolutely. So we're going to have Akzo Nobel, which is the parent behind a lot of the finishes that you can have on your Jeep. And we're going to have her help make us and you a little bit smarter should you need to repaint, touch up, or do some custom work on your Jeep from the painting and finishing.
Now is the time to get those questions in, because if we haven't improved enough already, we will get your answers if we can.
Yeah. And I don't know which one of the two to go to next, because there's...
Oh, yeah, just do that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like a kid at Christmas, all these presents, you know? And that's the really cool part.
I can almost bet that every one of you gets your version of the...
Essentials magazine
from Big Q, Quadratech.
Yeah. Well, we'll say Quadratech.
Yeah, no, nice and I have no problem with it. But this was after Scott left, and I got up on the Las Vegas monorail. We were going back to SEMA, Susan and I, and lo and behold, it was actually in the bus.
The bus?
The shuttle bus. And we sit down, and we're next to Steve Fisher. Hi, Steve. And Tom Cosilla, I think is how you pronounce it. And Tom is the design engineer for Quadratech, or one of them, and Steve is the engineering manager. And their job is, I thought, oh, you guys are here. They had buyer tags on. And he says, well, we are buyers.
Careful careful with that wire.
Okay. Is that the scratchy one? Sorry, folks. I didn't mean to blow your ears out. I don't have my headset on.
We'll fix it.
But they actually are the guys, when you see products that have the Quadratech label on them as not just a purchase, but actually, a Quadratech branded piece.
Right.
These are some of the guys who helped design them.
Yeah, I run the Quadratech Q9000 winch on my quantum entanglement.
Right. And so, and to get a talk, and they said, well, the company probably wouldn't let them interview us, but contact them and they will get us somebody who is cleared to talk. So We're going to talk to Big Q. Let's face it, anybody whose catalog gets so big they have to break it into the model of Jeep so you get the appropriate model for you. And
I told him to save it, because I have both the TJ and the the JK.
Now, Steve had one interesting comment that I do have to share with everybody.
What's that?
He says, I know they sell our catalogs in magazine stores and people pay for them. If you want a catalog, he says, just go to quadratech.com.
Click
here, and I'll mail one to your listeners for free. So if somehow you've been riding your Jeep for the last 20 years in the woods and are just coming out and don't know what Quadratech is, Q-Tech will send you a dream book that's kind of like that Christmas dream catalog you used to get from Sears when you were a kid.
Do you know how today we have the smartphone technology where we'll all talk about how, kitty litter, I want kitty litter. I can't think of nothing else but kitty litter. And all of a sudden you'll start getting ads on your phone for kitty litter.
Yep.
In 2002, when I got my first Comanche, all of a sudden, after I register it, obviously get street legal after rebuilding the engine and all that, I start getting Quadratech catalogs. I'm like, that's really freaky. Are they paying for this?
Yes, they are.
Oh, yes, they are.
Yes, they are. But it's hard to argue with somebody who can provide you either the product you want or make a matching product. And give you the options to see. That's one thing I like about their catalogs is they have their dream builds, so stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. So you can kind of plan your Jeep. Sound familiar?
Yeah, bench building,
Bench building.
And they also carry Crown Automotive, which is a automotive resupplier, I guess, whatever. Restoration parts, I think is the word to use. Well, and thanks to them, to Crown, they let us sit in front of their booth and record in front of a beautiful, it's a 1980 Grand Wagoneer.
Yep.
Yeah, beautiful. You all have seen the pictures.
If you haven't, that's the one with the canoe on top.
Yeah.
Yeah. To go out and find a cedar strip hand-laid canoe to put on top of this thing, fit out, it had original paint. It was beautiful. Because the one thing I will say that was not bad.
Here it comes.
But a little bit overkill. And the thing is, I can't blame the sellers.
No.
But I counted the number of non-Gladiator, non-JTs, Jeeps. I went about 6 in the entire show. There was 2 CJs. One you didn't see. I saw it down in one of the other booths on Friday.
Well, there was the YJ Gladiator.
Yeah, but that's still a JT base. We saw 3 of the original
Grand Cherokees.
No. Well, we did see a couple of those, but I was thinking about the Wagoneers. And
1 for control.
1 FC. Yeah. So you're going everybody. Well, here's the thing. and we do, this is in our video too, so those of you who are watching videos, yes, I'm going to repeat myself, so don't comment. But SEMA is about new products.
Yes.
What's the quickest way to say I got a new product?
By having the newest vehicle.
By having the newest vehicle. So even if it's an old product that happens to fit on a sister vehicle,
they're going to slap it on.
If you stick the name that now fits the JT.
Oh, you didn't have a JL, but you bought a Gladiator? Guess what? Our widget fits on that vehicle also.
And now it's a new product.
Exactly.
So everybody. And the weirdest thing was you're like, okay, I expect that on the off-road and 4x4 floor. Yeah. I expected it downstairs in the tires floor.
Yep. I knew you were going with this.
I really didn't expect to see it in the hot rod floor.
Exactly.
But there were probably 20 or 30 in the hot rod floor that people were using as booth bait to get your attention. They were outside. There was every imaginable build, color, configuration,
including the internet famous one from Quake LED.
Yep.
And everyone kept saying, who would put 13x7 reverse offset wire wheels on a Jeep Gladiator with the
Rubber
155, 30, 15 white wall tires? And I called it, and so did a few other people.
Yep.
It's on every Facebook page. It's on every social media outlet.
Love it or hate it, it got
the job
time
done, because guess what was all over the side of that Jeep?
Yep.
Quake LEDs.
So I do have to sidebar.
Yeah.
Non-Jeep, but at least it was a truck.
What's that?
Guys, girls, anybody listening, the Ford, what was the name of their off-road track? The Ford, not the Ford Experience.
I think it was a Ford Experience.
Maybe it was a Ford Experience. That's right, it was.
Yeah.
Imagine your local shopping mall, the entire parking lot empty. You put a ball made of tires that's probably 20 feet in diameter. You put a shipping containers in a stack so that you have two on the ground, one overhead, so you have a little tunnel to shoot through.
Yeah.
And then you pile up a ramp and landing pad in the middle and pave it.
Let's just make it a jump.
Yeah, pave the bloody thing.
Yeah.
And then you take turns alternating all day, giving rides. First in a Ford Mustang, one of their I don't know if it was an SHO,
Mustang,
but it's and I will say that I did note that most of them, if they're running the factory mufflers in Spirit, they've been cored out, so there's no baffles in them. But the Mustangs were drifting the course, zipping around, obstacles, and you could see the look on people's faces. But the Ford truck got my attention. Now, it's an F-150. It's a
Raptor.
It's a Raptor version. And they put somebody in it's a four-door Raptor. And this thing is running on the same course as the Mustang. Admittedly, not as fast.
Right.
A wee bit more body lean. But the rear tire was coming off the ground. The tires were definitely talking and leaving trails of smoke.
Oh, yeah.
And then they come around to that ramp, and they hit the ramp.
Yeah.
And the lowest jump I saw was 3 feet clear. I'm not talking about just the front wheels. I'm talking about the entire truck.
Yeah.
And then landing on the down ramp. And they did it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And I will kind of question Ford. I did see the note that says not modified, but I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Really? I drive a Ford. Really? But talk about an attention getter. You're coming off of the monorail or the buses are dropping, and all you hear is roaring engines,
tortured tires,
billowing to where you almost can't see the vehicle, and squealing tires. It's a Ford pickup truck.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Susan, my wife looks at me. She says, well, do you want to go for one of the rides? And I said, no, I want to drive. Not option.
Yeah.
Now, I do have to hit this. And again, it was in the video again, but this is going to get people's attention. I did see one booth that had the ultimate booth candy. Now, if you've been to any conventions anywhere in your life, you know what I'm talking about by booth candy. It's the little bowl of things or the stuff that the people in the booth are handing out to get you to come to their booth. Right. It may be pens. It may be, lanyards. It may be candy. It's usually a bowl of candy of some different types.
Yes.
So it's all typically called booth candy or swag.
Or like BXT tires or BKT tires had the Scooby-Doo and the little mini truck Scooby-Doo trucks.
Little mini truck Scooby-Doos. Well, I got to give a shout out.
Talk about knowing your audience.
eBay Motors.
Yeah,
was there.
Whoever your marketing director is,
he's a genius.
Genius.
eBay Motors, and you're walking by, and it's like people are kind of crowding the booth people. And it's like
there was a line.
What are you giving out?
Rolls of 20s?
Well, that's what I thought. And then all of a sudden, you get this little card with a blow mold on top, stapled. That they actually hand it to you backwards, so you just see eBay Motors, and you turn it over, and it says need hard to find items. Try eBay Motors. What's in the packet? 4 10 millimeter sockets.
Yeah.
2 quarter drive, 2 3/8, 1 deep well.
Let me see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm showing the Patreons right now, just like that. I mean, come on. That is brilliance.
That was just incredible. And then they also hand you the ultimate teaser to go along with it. You think it's a business card. It's a coupon for $10 off any purchase on eBay Motors.
They know their audience,
They know their audience, and this was probably the hottest swag being handed out at the whole conference. It was awesome.
I have to say, I again, hats off to the guys at and gals at eBay Motors. I mean, that was
marketing
perfect.
genius. Some of the other folks I talked with, for example, for those of you who've heard me talk previously, I do run a Ford truck as my tow vehicle, and not because I'm afraid to drive. It's I want to make sure I make it home from events if I do something stupid, which I want to do. That's how I learned to repair stuff for you guys.
Previous statement about jumping a Ford Raptor.
Yeah. But so, I met with Steve Kelly of X-Tang.
And didn't he share a picture with you? Was it X-Tang that shared the picture?
Which picture?
The Gladiator.
Yes. Oh,
yes.
Thank you. I would have forgotten that. Guys, for those of you, guys and girls, I'm sorry. For those of you who are buying a JT, have a JT, want a JT, you've probably heard me talk before about my X-Tang hardcover that goes on my Ford. It's a hard full cover that actually is structural foam with aluminum skins that trifolds back, and it's the only cover that I've found in the hard variety that leaves my bed clear while it's on the bed to hook up a gooseneck trailer. Okay.
Correct.
Or a fifth wheel trailer,
yes.
Which is really nice when you're going to an event and you pull your Jeep off your trailer. And then you're like, okay, I'm ready to go get to my hotel. I don't want my bags exposed to weather. I need to go to the grocery store. I need to go get parts. The cover closes over the hitch and is secured internally. So if the tailgate latches, well, they have released their JT model for the X-Tang.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, they didn't have one there. And he felt bad because he says, yeah, I know, we missed the boat here. But he was showing me some production literature. It actually fits better than any other cover I've seen. It looks like it was made, and it was, but I don't mean it metaphorically. I mean the whole cover it fit the look
better than OEM.
Better than OEM for the cover.
Yeah.
And of course, knowing what I know about it, the way it locks, it would be a great cover.
Yeah.
So if you guys need a hard cover, look at the X-Tang trifold. And Steve Kelly, thank you very, very much for the information. That was a neat cover to see something something like that.
Well, another really cool thing about when it comes to these new items, again, it was day one on our videos. And again, we keep going back to the videos, but some of these products you just have to see because, again, SEMA really pushes the new product aspect.
They do. That's the whole focus of the show.
As a matter of fact, we forgot the most important beginning of the show when we had our breakfast for new products. Jay Leno was there.
Yeah. He was a speaker.
And he talked about he was a guest speaker, but he talked about innovation, going at the people who started things in their garage and had an idea and progressed and moved on with it. They really push these. So we keep saying go back to the video, but there are so many cool items that we just can't cover in one or two shows.
Yeah. Like we talked to Bully Dog. I'm sure you go, oh, well, that's diesel. Well, Jeep's heading for diesel world.
Yeah.
And I talked with Jonathan Kitchens. He's actually here in Florida. He is the calibrations team lead. And he was talking about the tunes and how they can adjust the tunes. And, now that the EPA is cracking down on deletes, I'm sorry, I bumped my cord again, on deletes on diesels, he says, we do it 50 state legal.
Yeah.
So they can help you in your diesel world. Now, let's shift a little bit. We've talked about products.
Yeah.
But if you own a Jeep, you have to work on your Jeep. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people who work on their Jeeps want to build their own stuff or modify their own stuff.
This is when things are getting good.
Yeah, this was fun. First shout out has to be to...
Please tell me you're going to say him by name.
Yeah, I'm going to say him by name. I have to say it by name.
We met a bunch of people there.
We did.
And
we met
everyone was super nice and very, very animated.
But this is ESOB's booth. Mm-hmm. It's where, if you guys look at the pictures Scott has posted and other things, you will see I'm having actually a conversation, not just a, oh, hi, thanks.
Tell me about your product.
But with Ian Johnson. Like we've mentioned him before.
Right.
He owns, what is it, Mad Dog? No. Big Dog.
Big Dog.
Big Dog off-road shop in Tennessee. Sorry, Ian. The memory isn't what it used to be at 60. But they handed it off. I wanted to talk to somebody as a guy with tools in the garage, not big industry guys that are buying welders and tools. And I'd heard some information that had been published about the ESOB 205 AC/DC. This to me, and you know I'm a tool junkie, this is really a cool welder. Is it cheap? No. But it's less than buying multiple welders. So in that way, maybe it is inexpensive, a value. But the Rebel 205 AC/DC welder, if you can only have one welder, this will do MIG, TIG, stick, but it also runs AC, DC, DEC, or I always forget the other one.
It's a complete alphabet soup.
It will basically weld almost anything.
Yeah.
And one machine, you can use it with gas, without gas. You can weld aluminum, you can weld steel, you can weld stainless steel. Mm-hmm. So think about it. How much of the body armor nowadays is aluminum?
Oh, quite a bit.
Okay. How about your exhaust systems? I wouldn't put anything but stainless steel on.
Yeah.
Okay. But I have to take it to somebody,
Well, it's literally, it makes old slaw, cold slaw, new slaw, mother and slaw, julienne fry. This thing will slaw anything you want. It's literally the Ronco plum pitter yogurt squirter of garage tools you could ever want. And again, the cool thing about it is that even me, not under, like your welder you have now, pretty cool. It's got a couple knobs, a plug, yada, yada, yada.
And it sticks two pieces of metal together.
Yeah, you put the quarters in it. But I understood the interface of how to use this welder.
Well, and so we got introduced to Jesse Edelman. Now, Jesse is actually, this is what's really weird.
Oh, he's cool.
He's not a professional welder. He's the account manager for Central California.
Uh-huh.
But man, the guy is good.
Uh-huh.
He teaches well, and he actually pulled a zinger on me.
He did.
He did.
He did.
I've never welded aluminum before. I've never had the equipment to weld aluminum. So he decided mid-interview that
you're going to weld aluminum.
You're going to weld aluminum. So he hooks me up with a spool gun and aluminum, and at least I will say I managed to stick two pieces together and they didn't fall apart when touched. Now, it did look like something that drips down your windshield after a flight of pigeons fly over.
I was going to say it looks like your tissue after you blow your nose.
Well, that could be too.
Oh, great. No third grade.
Then he took over and showed us how it was done. And immediately he went into instructor mode. And I realized that my problem was I was moving too fast. Mm-hmm. Why? Because this welder has something I've never seen before. Now, I'm not going to say it's not in the other welders. A lot of them are smarter, and my welder's probably 5 to 7 years old. But it has a circuit board that can figure out if your arc length is a little too long or a little too short. If your welding material, the aluminum, is stuck out a little too far or a little short. Are you moving too fast? Are you moving too slow? And it will adjust its parameters within what it can do to try and help you weld better.
Yeah, more welding, less grinding.
And so, the old adage of a grinder and paint makes me the welder I ain't. I wish I could claim authorship of that, but no, that's been around a long time. And then he showed me. He said, well, you were moving too fast. He said, that's really the only thing you did wrong. He said, you had the right stick out, you had the right angle, you were using a push, that's all good. But you're in a hurry. Is your welder really? I said, yeah, my welder runs very hot. He goes, that explains it. Because then he went along and it looked like he was holding the gun the same way I was, but he showed me. He says, I'm just moving slow, and he did half of it in a steady feed, and then the second half he did in the pulse mode, which you have on this welder.
Right.
And it looked like the welding perfection
of
is
nickels.
called a stack of dimes is
Stack
the
of
term
dimes,
used.
yeah.
It, and you take a stack of dimes and lay them down, how they're all laying on each other at an angle. And at that point, I was too embarrassed to try again because I was like, I knew I was never going to, when you hold up the gold standard to a guy who's just learning how to write, you're not going to.
Well, and the cool thing about him is that he was very animated, very personable, super friendly guy. It was on my hats off to him. He's like, I don't normally interview. I'm like, could have fooled me, dude.
Could have fooled me.
I literally told what was it, Robert, the other guy, the manager?
That's not Robert. That's another one I'm going to talk about here.
Yeah. But whoever I was speaking to, I said, you need to make that guy. Let's see here, Jesse.
No, Jesse's a guy that we may not have gotten the card from Jesse's supervisor or team lead there.
Yeah, no, but I was talking to him and I said, look, this cat gets it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he kept talking to the camera, talking to the microphone. There was even a few panics when you do see the video where someone started welding behind him going, as an audio guy, I'm freaking out. So cut, next scene, you'll see he's wearing a microphone. I gave him my microphone because the stuff he was saying was that important.
Yeah. So if you're looking for a welder, no, it's not. It's going to be, 4 digits and then some.
Just like buying Jeep parts. Buy once, cry once.
That's it. You need to look at it. Now, I did, Scott, on Friday after you were gone, I was down at the Lincoln Electric, and they have some comparable welders, and I also stopped off at Miller,
right?
And they have comparable. The key here is not brand specific, but the market has shifted, and now you can buy multi-voltage, multi-polarity, multi-process welders. And if you were to go out and buy a tombstone stick welder, my MIG, I know what I paid for it, and a TIG unit, and the TIG be dual polarity so that it could weld aluminum. And if your MIG, you bought one that could support gases and spool guns, you would far exceed the cost of the ESAB, the Miller, or the Lincoln. So, no favoritism here, but I will give a shout out to Jesse. ESAB booth was really hospitable. They were willing to talk and they were willing to explain and then let an old guy grab new technology and see what happens. It wasn't pretty, but it worked.
It was functional.
It was.
Yeah.
Now, back to the other side. How are we doing on time? Are we going way long?
We're a little long, but we told him at the beginning of the show it's going to be a long show.
All right, well, I'm going to try and wrap this side up a little bit. Shout out to Robert Campos of Strong Hand Tools.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of you are going, what is Strong Hand Tools? Well, I don't know about you guys, but at least on my TJ, there ain't nothing lightweight about that Jeep.
No.
You pull the engine, I'm not going to set it on a regular wooden workbench for the most part.
Right.
And Strong Hand Tools took the idea of a strong workbench. I'm sure everybody's seen somebody who got themselves a plate of steel and made a workbench out of a plate of steel, to be able to work on. But they took it the next step. They actually drill a grid pattern of holes very accurately in these flat plates, which lightens them.
Right.
But then that allows you to drop in all kinds of clamps, braces, things. So you can actually assemble components on the table. The table has a ground lug. It's conductive. It has no finish on the top so that you can hook your ground up. And as long as the metal part is laying on the table, you have ground. So you don't have to worry about that. Now, you may have to clean paint off the part. So you can weld on it. You can clamp on it. You can fabricate on it accurately. Yes. And that in itself is critical. I've read about them. I've seen them on some other YouTube videos.
Aren't they nitrate covered too? Or
I don't know about that, but I think he said something so welding splatter didn't stick.
Yeah, that was my question.
And we were talking about, well, if it gets in the holes, and he says you just run a dowel or a bolt through it,
that's
and
what
it pops it off. I tend to watch welding tips and tricks .com,
right?
Which is a welding video by a very notable welder, and Jody. Now he first reviewed them when they came out,
right.
And now every video you see, it's pretty much all you see in the videos are strong hand tables. Yeah. I wish I had his budget because he's got a lot of them, but the point is he makes everything look easy because he just takes it and sets it on this table, takes a clamp that drops into the hole and tightens the clamp down, and everything's grounded, everything's accurate, it's tight, it doesn't move and warp when you weld. So shout out to Strong Hand Tools. It's a neat product. So if you're looking to outfit your garage, you may want to look, because they do have smaller tables that work for home garages.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to give a shout out to Jason, your business card.
Well, the last name's not so important. Where is he from?
Anagnostis. He is the president and chief technical officer of Pour Products. Now, tell me,
that is a
who
common
hasn't
question.
heard of Pour 15?
Okay.
If you have rust on a Jeep, and who doesn't, you either have heard of or need to hear of Pour 15. It is a chemically reactive material that you can paint on firmly affixed rust, not the loose flaky crap. And it will convert that rust to a solid substrate ready to be painted. And it turns out that he was there chatting, and they had one of the CJs that you didn't see. Okay. And sitting next to that CJ was a CJ frame.
Right.
And we were talking about, because a Jeep, I was doing the squirrel thing, and that's not a JT.
Yes.
And lo and behold, he comes over. He says, we're here, our products, and they have a lot more than Pour 15. That's what I want to touch on. They have rust prevention, primers, top coats, coatings, kits, painting accessories, even concrete floor coatings for garages.
Hey, concrete, yay.
But they were talking about the fact that the Jeep in question that was at the show was a rusted wreck. And they cleaned it, and then Pour 15'd it, and then reassembled it, and it actually looked dang good. So it was a neat proof of concept for the Pour 15 material. Yes, it is expensive, but you get what you pay for.
Well, again, we do talk about it several times. Pay once, cry once,
So now let's get on to the wrap up for this part of the show, which is the Mopar booth.
This completes side A. Please flip cassette over to side B.